This is Helping of Happiness, episode number 160. Today we have on therapist Nikki Olson from Nikki Olson Coaching, and she is going to share some insight on how to help kids develop social skills with their peers and also with the adults in their lives. And this is going to be aimed even more specifically to kids with ADHD, but it will definitely apply to all the kids of all different ages in your life. We talk about how to do this with young kids, with teenagers, with kids that are adults. So this is just going to be a fantastic episode. Hi, I'm Hillary Hess, and you're listening to Helping of Happiness. I am a crazy mom of 7 kids who loves to build memories through eating delicious family recipes and going on adventures with my family. On this podcast, you'll be introduced to light-filled people and ideas that inspire me to be a better mom and help me bring family closer together and closer to Jesus Christ. Hello! Really quick before we get started, I just thought it would be fun to give you one of my favorite little ideas for Christmas presents that I have been able to find lately that does not clutter up your house and that is the gift that just keeps on giving. And it doesn't even have to deal with any of supply issues that we've been having. So this is the Lily and Thistle Watercolor School right now, just from now until Friday at midnight. So if you're listening to this but in that time frame, hurry up and jump on it while you can. But it's a buy one, get one free lifetime access to the water school. So you buy a membership and then you can give it to a friend. Isn't it fabulous? And I think of maybe if you're a grandma listening, you could buy one for one, grandchild family and then give one to the other grandchild family, or you can go in with a friend and split up the cost, whatever you want to do. But it's so amazing. We have used this through our homeschool. We've used it now that we're back in regular school. We love it on the weekends. We love it during school breaks. We love to use, she has so many cute little things for different holidays. Sometimes we'll paint her little templates and then we'll use them for place cards or for decorations, or we just learn how to paint and the kids just paint it. So anyway, it's just so fantastic and I just love it. And I know for me, I'm always looking for ideas that isn't just more stuff to be in my house. So I love this because it's a talent the whole family can work on together if they want, or if it's just you or just your kids. But it's really fun and it's just going to be covering all the ages. If you're brand new to watercolor or if you've been doing a little watercolor, it's awesome. So you maybe have heard of Lily and Thistle before. Lily and Thistle is my friend Hannah Stevenson. Sorry, I always call her by her maiden name. That I grew up with her and we went to college together too. But she's been on our podcast several times and she's just such a beautiful soul. And I just love everything she puts out. So anyway, forgive my scratchy voice. Luckily, we recorded this episode with Nikki before I got sick. So my voice should be there during that episode. So enjoy it. Go to our show notes, get those links, and enjoy the month of Christmas getting ready. Nikki, it is so fun to be back together. It has been a long time. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am so happy to be chatting with you today. I just always have such a good time when we get together. So,
Same.
And you walk me through all of my parenting things in public for all to hear, but hopefully other people can learn something from my little session with you on the podcast.
Yes. So I'm happy to do it.
Well, let's have you just tell us really briefly about your family. You've been on several times before, but it's been a while since you've been on. So tell us a little bit about your family and also a little bit about what you do, because you do so many amazing things.
Thank you. So my name's Nikki Olson, and I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I live in a little teeny tiny town in Southeast Utah called Blanding. And I have 2 not so little girls. I keep saying little, and they're not little. They're 11 and 13. And my husband works here at the school district, and I am a therapist at our local community mental health. And then I also own an online coaching business where I help LDS women learn to receive revelation so that they can prioritize their day better through the Spirit and help their loved ones and just gain access to the enabling power of Christ physically and mentally.
Which is so powerful. And if people listening want to go back and hear more about that, about your personal revelation booklet, I'll link that up here.
Yeah.
Because it's just amazing how that just opens the windows of heaven. I love it.
I actually updated it. Well, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, but I updated that journal, and then I have a mini version of that journal for the holidays, so you can hand it out.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm going to make a note. Let's talk about that at the end. That's awesome. Okay. Yes. We all want to hear about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So our topic today, we talked almost 2 years ago. Can you believe it was almost 2 years ago? How have we known each other this long? I don't know. On episode 91, it was all about talking about ADHD, and we talked about sleep, and we talked about homework, all those really tough times of day with kids with ADHD. But today, just give me more insight. I have more problems in my home today. I would love some insight on how to help kids with ADHD, and I'm sure this can even relate to all kids probably.
Right.
Just develop social skills with their peers and also with adults in their lives too, because I mean, I feel like I'm surrounded by this, not only in my own home, but my kids' friends that have it, or as I serve in my church, I have girls in my group that have it, and it feels like it's just all around me right now. So
you're immersed in it.
I'm immersed. You're
supposed to learn something about it.
I am. Well, and I listened to one of those talks at conference, and it was on mental health, and I cannot remember the name right now, but I know you probably know that talk.
Yes.
But it talked about how we needed to learn more about mental health. And so I'm just seeking more information right now. So first of all, can you give us just a quick rundown maybe about what ADHD is and kind of what's happening in the brain for people that haven't been immersed in ADHD like I have been lately?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times we think of ADHD as a inability or a lack of ability to focus, but actually it's an overfocusing problem. Okay, so when you have ADHD, we over focus on the things that are more interesting or of more priority than the things that aren't. So if anything sounds or looks or feels more interesting, then the attention will go to that and hyper focus on that. Okay. And the reason that happens is that ADHD affects the executive functioning part of our brain. So that part of our brain houses the ability to problem solve, manage time, organize, communication, empathy, emotion regulation. And it's not that we don't have those abilities, it's that the pathways to that part of the brain are slowed down or blocked. Okay. So with ADHD, then that ability to access those skills becomes a slower process. But what's happening on the back end is the thoughts are coming faster. So you have an inundation of thoughts coming really fast, and then almost a funnel effect, right? Of funneling down and trying to get all those thoughts into the executive functioning part of your brain, where you can access the skill to deal with all the input that's coming your way. Okay?
So it's almost like a backlog. And so it's all just slammed in at the same time. Okay.
Yeah. So medication oftentimes will open up those networks and help that. And the other thing that can help, the reason why therapy helps, and a lot of the things that we work on are creating skills and habits that become almost a muscle memory, so that you don't need to access that executive functioning brain to do it. You just you do it. You do it out of habit. Like it becomes something that you turn to because you've practiced it so much. And
which seems like a great solution for people that don't want to be medicated, or maybe just need both, right?
Exactly. You can't, it's going to be difficult to just rely on medication if you don't learn some sort of skills, because you're going to have habits that form because it was untreated for a period of time, right? And so then those habits become just kind of what you do and how you coped. But also a lot of times we see depression and anxiety develop because of untreated ADHD, because you don't know what's happening. You don't know, like, why it's happening. And so you start developing depression because you blame yourself, or anxiety because you don't know what's going on. But the other thing I want to add in about ADHD is, so it used to be called ADD, and then you either had hyperactive or impulsive, but now everything's just called ADHD, meaning attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And then you have 3 different types that you can have. Okay. So then we add in like what type you have. So as a therapist, this is the diagnosis part, but it's important to know this too. So you have the hyperactive part, you can have inattentive type, or you can have both, what we call combined type. Okay. And it's important to know that, not for medication necessarily wise, but it's important to know where you might be struggling with that. What I notice is people who have are diagnosed with inattentive type often go undiagnosed for a long period of time because they've learned to cover it up. Because it's not that they're restless, it's not that they're fidgeting in their seat, it's more of their brain isn't processing things the way that they're taking that in. And so they've learned to, like teenage girls are a very good example of this, because they're pleasing, right? They want to please people. So they've learned to keep their head down, but inside their mind is that funnel effect is happening, right? And that's very anxiety producing, but they know they won't get in trouble in class if they just keep their head down and look like they're working, right? Or they spend hours and hours and hours on their homework because they're trying to focus and get right back on. Let me funnel everything through here. Let me shove this in the funnel and figure this out. But they're spending hours doing that. And so that can create a lot of anxiety and depression. And outside people don't see the struggle.
Right. They just see the anxiety or the depression sometimes.
Yeah. You don't see it until those other things start manifesting themselves, right? So then it's caught a lot later with that. And so then you're dealing with the ADHD and the anxiety and or the depression with it and treating that. So it's important to know the type, but also be looking for those signs like the inattentive type, and really understanding like, okay, I might be, if I'm telling my kid like, hey, listen, focus here. Or maybe they walk into a room and you ask them to do something and they're just not following instructions, but it's not a defiance thing. Sometimes in boys, it often comes out as a defiance thing. But when we look at it with girls, then it tends to be more of like they're, this isn't a very good term, but like a space cadet, almost like it feels like, man, they're just spacing out all the time, right? And that's the way it looks, but they're not being defiant necessarily. So I have a lot of parents that bring their kids in and just say that they're defiant, when in reality, what's happening is their brain is not functioning the way it needs to. And the parent makes this kind of, not a judgment, but just an observation that the reason why they think the kid is doing it, but internally, the child may not be doing it because they're not being defiant. They just can't get their brain to do what they want it to do.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
I see so much of that, especially the kind of space cadet-y thing that goes on a lot at our house. And it kind of segued into depression for a while. And so we thought it was just depression. And then as other things have happened, we're starting to realize, wait, I don't think that was actually the root. I think we need to go back over here. And
that's where you really want to you want to get down to the root, because you can treat the symptoms of depression. You could do medication for the depression, but the root cause is still there, right? And you're sort of just masking it up.
Yeah.
And so it really is important to get down to that root of like, okay, and ADHD is just it's a chemical that's keeping you from doing that, right? Like there isn't anything wrong. Nothing happened to cause it. Nobody is bad or wrong. And that's the hard part a lot of times, is that, medication gets a stigma around it, right? It's like, okay, I don't want to medicate my kid. I don't want to do that. But if your kid had a diabetes, you would not have that same reaction. You would not say, I don't want to medicate my kid. I'll just make them exercise more. I'll just make them eat healthier foods. You can't do that. Like you can do that and help, but you can also have a resource at the tip of your hands that can help your child be able to have relief from that and not overworking themselves through the skills. Skills are great, but if they're overworking themselves through the skills and you could just have the medication help open those networks up and give them relief from that while they're working on the skills, while they're developing it, then the cool thing about ADHD medications is you can take them as needed. You don't have to take, if you get on the right ones, you can take them just when they need them. They can start to learn how to take them. Like, I have a test today, right? I'll use my skills the other days and I'll take my test, I'll take it when I have a test, or I have, I see adults that are like, I'll just take it when I have a long meeting, or,
Yeah.
things like
I
that.
have a
So
big thing at work happening this week, so I need to be more, I get that.
so if we can give the kids some relief while they're learning these skills, right? And the medication can help provide and open those networks, and they can like access their memory again. They can access the ability to focus and stay focused on something. They can learn these things, right? Like they can get caught up on maybe their reading ability, their math ability. They can be able to interact with peers better, because it affects their ability to interact with peers, because that executive functioning part of their brain is what houses all of the interaction skills, right? Communication, empathy, problem solving, right?
Yes.
Organizing. And you need that within peer relations. And so if you are not accessing that, and then you're having to learn skills and they're like, I just really don't want to do this because I'm exhausted. It's exhausting
Yeah.
to have ADHD and
To have everything running a mile a minute in your mind. Yeah.
Yep. And then trying to shove it through a funnel and process slower. And so it's not that I'm like you have to have medication, but I'm a big proponent and advocate of it, because you can provide your kids some relief, right? You don't have to really work with a provider that's willing to not over medicate. And you do have to be careful. It is a controlled substance. You don't want to like advertise that you have these things in your home or things like that. But you can work around some of those fears and worries and get educated on it so that you feel more comfortable.
I love that. Thank you so much. I think that helps take some of the fear out of the medication too, for people that are worried about getting hooked on something, or I don't want to turn my kid into a zombie, or, something like that,
Yeah.
which I think is part of the stigma, right?
And there are providers out there, that go straight in and give you too much or on the run medication. There's multiple types that you can be on, but find a provider that you trust that will take it slow and increase the dose slowly, and also will monitor their weight. And that will, I have really good providers that I know that I send my clients to, that I'm like, okay, I know they're going to monitor their weight. I know that they're going to be monitoring their blood pressure and all of these other things, so that it doesn't get to that point where it physically affects them. And then you have that balance between, okay, yeah, we're getting results, but we don't want these side effects. Like, find a medical provider that's willing to work with you on those and not push you to the point where it's like, yeah, but we have to have this high dose, right? Because it's helping. You absolutely don't. You can have relief and not be on too high of a dose.
That's awesome. So awesome. So last month we had on Katrina from the Deliberate Family, and she talked just a little bit about her Christmas course that she has getting together. So she has this really cool Christmas course for moms, and it's all about making a Christmas that is spiritual and fun to help your kids be more grateful, really making Christ the focus of your Christmas, helping you get on top of things for the Christmas season. Maybe you really love Christmas, but you always feel burned out and frenzied in December, helps you get over the anxiety of gift giving, and helps you to create lasting memories. And this is just such a neat course. And we've had our listeners asking us, do we have a coupon code? Do we have a coupon code? So I reached out to Katrina and she got one for us. So you can punch this in when you go to her little checkout there at Deliberate Family. The coupon code for 10% off of this awesome Christmas course is Christmas10, CHRISTMAS 10, 10, so Christmas 10. So you can use that to go get 10% off of this awesome course. And this is such a great time to do this, because we're still in November and there's still a little bit of time to get organized before the holidays. Back to Nikki. Okay, so you were talking a little bit about our social interactions, and that is one thing that I notice a lot, just being in a youth group with kids and at home. I've notice different things. It's like sometimes they just don't know when to take, they don't know they're taking it too far. Does that make sense with different
Mhm.
things? And so I could love to just maybe go through the ages a little bit and talk about how we can help, because it's very different with my 7-year-old who is doing something compared to my high school senior, right? I'm not going to be parenting that the same,
Right. Mhm.
So let's go. Do you maybe want to talk about kind of, we'll start with young kids and their friendships and kind of how we can maybe have some strategies to help them with their friendships when they're young.
Yeah. So when they're younger, this skill is going to work a lot better. Is role play is going to be your best friend.
Okay.
Okay. Because remember how I said you want to get it into their muscle memory, right? Like those networks where they're accessing the skills to be able to interact with their peers is really slowed down and going to be hard. So we want to practice the skills that they need in that moment. So you can observe what they're needing, and be able to say, all right, I noticed that when your friend told you to stop and you kept going, right? Then your friend got really mad and went home, and then you were really sad because they went home. I wonder if we can kind of talk about that and learn a different strategy for dealing with that. So you could teach them the skill of accepting no for an answer, right? And you can go in and just say, let's practice that so that when your friends come over next time, you both don't end up being sad at the end of it and not being able to play with each other. So let's just, and you always break skills down into 3 or 2 steps if they're really little, 4 steps if they're maybe like 12. Okay. So kind of
Okay.
that, but break everything down into a few steps and then just have them practice those steps over and over and over again. So for like accepting no, it could be, all right, when someone says no, you say, okay, you walk away and you find something else to do to get your mind off of it. Okay. So then they know, and then you practice that. So you say, I'll be the friend, you be you, and I'm going to say no. And then you say, okay, you stop doing or leave or whatever that looks like. And then you find something else to do. So in their brain, they're just like, always, okay, fine, stop, find something else to do. They can just really filter through the steps and figure that out.
It's like stop, drop, and roll that you remember
Exactly.
when you're on fire.
Yeah, you remember all of those steps because
Yeah.
it's laid out for you, right? And and you can sort of tailor that to any situation. You can put, you can use accepting no when parents tell you no or something like that too. But the thing is, don't just teach them the steps. You have to physically do it with them. It's in the role play that it gets in their muscle memory. Remember, memory is also housed in that executive functioning brain. So teaching it to them isn't going to make a difference. They're not going to learn it. You have to physically practice it, and not just once. You're going to have to set up like a system, maybe even like a reward system, where if they practice it with you once a day, then there's some sort of reward for them practicing with you. Just like doing chores, it's like a chore for them that they're going to practice this
So
skill.
it's all the time. It's not like, okay, we're going to do this one time and then you're set. They
Exactly.
just got to
You're
keep
going to have to
practicing.
practice it so much that it's just becomes something that they do because they practiced it so much.
Okay. That is super helpful. I
Yeah,
think especially just because sometimes you just think, well, I told you once, why aren't you getting it? So maybe
exactly.
this takes some of that frustration out, that you just already go in expecting that it's going to take more work. And
Mhm.
then you're like, okay, we've got this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And for you, yeah, I think it takes the pressure off of the parent because you realize, okay, this is not something that I can just say once and it's taken in and they understand it. They're not being defiant. It literally is not
It's
absorbing
not
into that
sinking
brain.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have to role play, and you can set up this expectation like, okay, so now in the moment when you see it happening, I can do a reminder of the steps, right? And be like, oh, hey, remember our steps here, right? Or if they're playing with a friend, you can say, hey, come here for a second, like you're going to tell them something, you go, remember your steps.
Let's practice. Let's practice.
Yeah, or have a code word that you say in
Yeah.
the middle where they remember their steps when they're with their friends when they're little, like that.
That's so great. I love that. Okay, how about teenagers? Because this is the problem, is that I'm not hanging out with my teenagers with their friends, right? So I don't always know what's going on until I sometimes get feedback from either their
Oh,
siblings or maybe other kids, or they come home and don't understand why something went awry that, and as they explain it, I'm kind of going, oh, I can see where you misstepped there, or it's just a little confusing, right? So,
yeah.
how do we help them? What is a good way to kind of teach them some of these things?
So I call this the sandwich effect. This is the best way to sort of give feedback to them, right? So you're gonna give feedback to them in the same way, of like kind of step kind of things, and I'll tell you some in a second. But you want to sandwich that feedback between two positives. Okay. So you want to start out with some like praising them for something, acknowledging something like, I'm so grateful that you come talk to me about this. And, being able to open up about your feelings really helps you work through them. So I really appreciate that. Then you talk about the skill or whatever you're going to teach them, and then follow it up with another positive sandwich, right? Like, okay, you know what? You are a really kind person and you really want to help other people, and I really appreciate that about you. So you got to sandwich these things. Otherwise, if they're telling you something, they come to you, however you gain this information, if you go straight into feedback mode, they're shut down. They're not listening. They feel like you're attacking them.
And that's like with any kid. I mean, especially teenagers,
Yeah, you
but
can use this for little kids too.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But this is and also you can say to them like, okay, you may not do a physical role play, but you could run through scenarios with them and have them talk to you about how they might respond to that. So it's more of an adult type version. Like, okay, so
Mhm.
if they said this, what do you think you might say? Or what do you
You're
think
not
you might?
getting out the finger puppets and acting out
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, because one of the other skills I was just thinking of as you're talking about this is I call it the empathy investigator.
Mhm.
So your ability to understand how someone else might feel in a situation is empathy, right? And so that is housed also in the executive functioning part of our brain. So when that shuts down or it's slower to get there, um, they're going to be thinking about their own needs before somebody else's needs very quickly, right? That's going to be present. And then their ability to think about somebody else is going to be slowed down and they might not notice it till later, right? Or if ever. And so a skill that we can teach them is to be an empathy investigator. Always try to be thinking about what the other person might be thinking or feeling in this situation. So that's something you could do in the sandwich too, is like, okay, let's flip this around. How about you're that person and somebody does this to you? What does it feel like when somebody's doing that to you? What do you want to do when somebody's doing that to you? Okay. So now let's turn that back around. That's how your friend felt. So what do you think you can do differently so that your friend doesn't feel that in that time? So always, and you can kind of point these out. This is kind of another skill too, any age really, is always be talking about what you think the other person might be feeling, right? So just random movies you're watching, you could just
Yeah.
say, hey, what do you think this character is thinking or feeling? They're not really talking about it. You could pause it and just say that. Or when you're doing family scripture study and it doesn't really say, you could also say, you could pause and just say, hey, what do you think Lehi is thinking and feeling right now? What do you think Nephi is thinking or feeling right now in this? So teaching them to start thinking and about other people and what they're thinking and feeling and being a sort of an investigator into that.
I love that. I think that's so great. And what a wonderful blend of doing something as a family and then using it to your advantage. I think that's incredible to really kind of have your little family entertainment or your family scripture study and also helping their mental health. That's
Yeah, or
awesome.
you're at the drive-through and somebody's rude or something to you, right? Be like, what do you think
Yeah.
why do you think they maybe said that or did that? Like maybe
Yeah.
they're having a bad day. Maybe the customer before them was mean to them. They can start thinking that way. And it's not always pinpointing the person who might have ADHD in your family out and
Yeah.
teaching them, but it's just a family way that we just
Yeah.
deal.
Oh, it's all of my family needs this stuff. It's not just for
In general, empathy
the
is a skill
one
that we all
kid.
need, right?
Oh, yes. There's
Yeah.
always the teasing or the rude talking or whatever they've got going on that day. It's always something with kids, right?
Yeah.
Get a bunch of them and you're just going to have a ton of it.
Yes. Yes. which is another skill I was thinking of too. And I don't know how maybe this relates to younger kids. We can kind of talk about how you implement it, but asking for what you need out of a relationship, learning how to ask for that, right? Because like you said, it becomes the pushing, right? It becomes the pushing or the teasing or the fighting to get what we need. And really, a lot of times it's like, I just wanted attention from them, right? Okay. How do you think that you could get attention from them in a way that they want to give it to you, right? And this could be like a family home evening thing too, where you could incorporate little kids and big kids and set up scenarios and just say, okay, they're wanting to borrow something from you, instead of going and stealing it, what do you think is the best way to get that? Or they're wanting attention from you. What do you think is the
ripping it out of their hands? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Or they're wanting you to play a game with them, but they're already involved in something else. What do you think is the best way to get them to come do that thing with you without teasing them or making fun of them or something like that? Set up scenarios, like almost have like a backlog of scenarios in your mind that you can think of and sort of put in these role plays.
I love that. So what about when they're entering the realm of dating? Because this is a tricky one, because it's like everything gets all thrown off when you throw girls in the mix with the boys or vice versa. All of a sudden they're hyper aware of themselves and it's like everything they've learned has gone out the window or something. I don't know.
Well, it's just a nerve-wracking time in general, right? And I think acknowledging how they might be feeling and being able to relate with them, first of all. Because if you have ADHD, that executive functioning brain can be shutting down for that reason. But also, certain thoughts that we have can shut down our executive functioning. We all experience sort of an ADHD effect because we have a system inside of us. And we've talked about this, the mind-body bridging stuff before. That shuts down, that identity system shuts down your executive functioning. Okay. So we can all experience this effect that everybody has. So if they have ADHD and then they have stressors going on with it, it can also be shutting it down, right? So just having empathy in that moment and like, okay, I can see that this might be a really stressful time because you aren't sure what to say maybe on the date, or you're worried that you might not look the way you want to, or that you might do something that will make them not like you or something like that. Like that makes total sense. Guess what? We all feel that way when we went on our first dates and when we dated all the time, right? And in fact, we all feel that way when we meet new people, right? Just normalizing a lot of this, right? So that they're not feeling alone and isolated. And just naming the feelings can be really helpful, because once you can name that feeling for them, then they can come back and say to you, I'm feeling this way, and you can listen. So them to be able to sort of get those feelings out can be really helpful. And then it just opens up a conversation. And if they're willing to share their fears and their worries about that with you, then you can offer, right, in that moment in your sandwich, right, and say, okay, so just remember, girls really like it when you do this on a date.
Okay.
Yeah. I can tell you that, and I oftentimes, one way that I really get into kind of talking about something with my kids, because they love to hear my stories of when I was younger, silly or embarrassing, or just things that I learned. So I've learned that if I can start the conversation of, I remember when I went on my first date. Do you want to hear about my first date? And they're like, yeah, I want to hear about your first date. And then you can say, I wish that I knew this before I went, right? So you're not telling them something specific, but you're sort of relating it to a story. And you say,
and they can just kind of store that in their little,
Yep. I wish I would have known how to do this, or I wish that the guy would have done this for me on the date. It wouldn't have been as awkward, And so you can sort of teach out of stories that way as well. And it creates a connection and a relation, like, whoa, you've been in the same spot I've been in. I can listen to you.
Identify. Yes, that is huge. They're probably a little more open to getting feedback if they feel like you have common ground as well, probably.
Exactly. Story can really create that. Yeah.
So I am going to have 2 adult children officially starting next week.
Oh my goodness.
And parenting adult children oh my goodness, is just so different than parenting younger ones. So I'm trying to maneuver these new waters.
Yep.
What if you have adult children that have ADHD and are struggling in their relationships? Do you have any tips for that?
So, first of all, you have to change your approach to the relationship, right? You're no longer their teacher. You're no longer their person that you're not responsible, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but for making sure they're doing the right thing. They're responsible for themselves. And you don't want them to feel reliant upon you to do that, right? So you want to be the person that they feel comfortable and open coming to talk to, right? So I'd say the first thing that you need to do is be able to monitor your reactions when they talk.
Yes.
Have to be able to deal with your own stressors. This is kind of what I do in my coaching business is I don't necessarily deal with kids and ADHD, but I deal more with the parents who are dealing with kids with ADHD and helping them control their own triggers and emotional triggers to that. Because you can't help your kids do anything if you're emotionally triggered.
If you're a hot mess, it's just nothing's going to get through either direction.
And the best way is to learn how to, in the moment, receive revelation to know what that person needs, right? Like they may need a listening ear. They may need advice. They may need somebody to do something for them. But the only person that knows exactly what that other person needs is the Savior. And if we want that information to know what it is that person needs in that moment and what it is that I can provide, we need to be in tune with the Spirit to know. And when we get emotionally triggered, we disconnect from that line of revelation and we cannot receive nor give what that person needs. And that's kind of what I specialize in my coaching business now is really like, how can we deal with our own emotional internal triggers so that we can be present to lead our families through the Spirit, right? And be able to do what's necessary for our families by removing those internal triggers. So I think adult parenting in adults is really, or when your kids are adults, you're not parenting them anymore, but you are a parent to them.
I know, you're kind of once a parent, always a parent, but it's just in such a different way.
Yes. And it's emotionally harder.
Yes, it is so hard.
So it's almost, that's the number one thing that you can do is start learning like, okay, I have to take this step back and allow them to make these falls, right? And allow them to learn from that. But I also want to be the person that they can come to and rely on. So now I've got to take a look inward and see what's within me that's keeping me from being that person that can, one, provide spiritual guidance for them, right, from the Spirit, but two, be a person that they want to come talk to because I'm not a reactionary person.
Yeah. Nikki, you're hitting it all right on the head. I just love this so much.
Oh, so good.
Okay, so one more little thing. So any tips for how we can have a better parent-child relationship? Because I mean, at least for some things that I've read, a lot of times the ones with ADHD kind of are just acting younger than they normally are. And it's sometimes really hard when you have an expectation of how they should act at a certain age, especially when maybe their siblings were a little bit more mature at those ages. Mm-hmm. And it gets kind of tricky to keep that relationship up when you don't feel like they're meeting where they should be.
Yep. And draining.
So draining.
Yes. And you hit the nail on the head with the word should there. Okay. So that's one of the skills that I teach with my mind body bridging is how to, a should is what I call a requirement, something that has to happen 100% of the time, because if it doesn't happen, it means I'm doing something wrong. Okay. So when we have shoulds in our life, we try to force things to be a certain way, because if they're not that way, it means something negative about me. Mm-hmm. And so then we try to make it be that way, because I don't want that to mean that about me, right? So, but we also don't want to lower our expectations or give up on that, right? Like if I have the requirement that my kids should listen to me, it's not a bad thing, right? But when I have the requirement that they do it 100% of the time, otherwise it means I'm a failure as a mother, then of course I'm going to try to force them to do it.
Right. Super unrealistic as well, right?
Yep. And then that affects my relationship, because then I'm approaching it. I oftentimes would approach it in anger, passive aggressive. The tone in which we kind of approach that just doesn't, it's not genuine, it's not helpful, it's not caring. And so it doesn't come off that way. So what I teach people to do is what I call diffuse those requirements. If you think of like a stick of dynamite that has a fuse on it, is to, if we take that fuse off that stick of dynamite, it's still a stick of dynamite, but it doesn't explode. So if we can defuse our requirements, we still have that same exact expectation, but when it doesn't happen, it doesn't blow us up. And we recognize that, hey, you know, I can have this wanted desire. I can prefer that my kids are follow instructions, but if they don't, I recognize and feel that it's not because I'm a failure. I recognize because it's because they're human.
They're using their agency in a way I don't like, but
and then we also have that awareness and compassion for where they're at, right? And like, okay, they are emotionally 11 here, even though they're in a 16-year-old body. And you can have compassion for that. And when you have compassion in that moment, then we approach things differently, right? And it's not forcing yourself to get there, but it's using the right tools to diffuse it so that you reconnect with the spirit, and the spirit provides that compassion for you.
I love that. That's so great. That is so great. And I can see that in so many interactions with my kids. When I come in and my fuse is lit and I'm just ready to fight,
Same,
it's never good. And it's hard to step back from that, especially if something does need to happen in the moment. That's tough.
Exactly. So
that
true.
is really tough. So how can I mean, the other thing I've thought is, you know, how can I be of help to other kids that maybe aren't my kids? Maybe they're in my church group, or maybe they're just friends of my kids that are over and they're just struggling with their social relationships. Is there something that I can do as kind of just someone to love on them, or, you know, maybe someone just helpful that's observing some things from the outside in?
Yeah, I think start with not being triggered, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we can't approach them and be helpful or do anything if we're triggered, right? So we have to learn to deal with our own triggers in that situation. But also think about someone who struggles with relationships that might have ADHD is probably hearing a lot of negative things about themselves and to them, and changing and criticism. And so the best way is to build a relationship through recognizing them for who they are, like trying to see through that and what their true identity is, their divine selves, and acknowledging that divine self and letting them know that you see beyond that, and what you do see is within them. And
well, wouldn't we all be better if everybody talked to us like that? Oh, my goodness.
And wouldn't they want to approach you? And then if you build a relationship through that, then you can then, and this is probably months or maybe years of building a relationship, then be able to offer a feedback sandwich, right? But you're not going to go offer a feedback sandwich to somebody you just got put into a calling last month with, right?
Yeah.
You might be able to do little things like, oh, I love you so much. Come here. Let's maybe go away from this little situation. You're just awesome. Thank you so much for coming over here.
Right.
Like,
right.
Feedback sandwiches, but you're not going to have like in-depth.
You're not going to dig deep. Okay. Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Okay. I think we need to hear about your little journal thing that you were talking about at the beginning with. So tell me all about those things.
Okay. So this is one of the ways that I really seek guidance and help daily from the spirit, right? Is being able to have consistent daily spiritual habits is the number one way that you can lead your family, be able to receive the revelation that you need, and really prioritize your day through the spirit. Because if you're doing what the spirit wants you to be doing every single moment, you are saving tons of time. Okay, because you're receiving information from a source that knows exactly where you need to be spending your time, right? Yeah. You're also making connections and leading your family and yourself in a way that is in alignment with where God wants you to be. So,
which is actually a huge relief, isn't it?
Yes,
it feels so much more peaceful when you really feel like you're doing what you should be doing.
Yep. And so my Seeking Revelation journal is compiled of all of these things that I've learned throughout the years of ways to connect with God. I do it in the morning, and I just have some meditation time and connect with God. And It has a meaningful prayer section so that you can learn to see the hand of God in your life, that you can see where God is answering your prayers, and ways to break down your prayers into small, actionable, I call them breadcrumb prayers. Like, God's not answering our big, giant prayers every day. He's answering them with little tiny breadcrumb answers. So what if we broke that down into breadcrumb questions, or asking for things for help, right? So it teaches you how to journal that out each day and to ponder your prayers before you say them. Because in the gospel topics essays, they talk about pondering your prayers and seeking guidance from the Holy Ghost about how and what you need to be praying for. So we need to be seeking guidance from the Spirit about what we need to be praying for before we pray for it. So the journal helps you outline what you need to be praying, what the Spirit wants you to be praying for before you pray for that. And then there's like ways to write down your revelations as you receive them, because President Nelson has talked about the best way to grow in your ability to receive revelation is to write your revelations down. So the journal sort of compiles all of those concepts and learning to align your will. And there's also sections about learning to ask questions before you study your scriptures and writing down your thoughts as you're studying, so you can receive the revelation that you need every day to really lead your family the way you want to lead with them, and create those consistent daily spiritual habits, because you have it right there, right? And you can kind of use that. And then every 7 days, I've turned it into a 90-day journal, so you can see the progress that you're making over those 90 days to see what, and then every 7 days, it breaks it down to see where has God been pressing on my heart with these revelations? Like, where am I not receiving revelation, and how can I tweak or change what I'm asking for to align my will more with God, rather than just sitting down, and I call it the drive-through order prayer, where you just list all the things.
We've all done those.
And then you just expect to receive on the other end. I just recorded a podcast.
Where are my French fries? Come on,
yes,
you're late.
Yes, I have a whole podcast. So I came out a couple weeks ago about the drive-through order on prayer.
Okay, I want you to send me that link. We'll link up to that. That'll be really fun.
So it's just really about aligning with God and making connections with God. So I have the Seeking Revelation journal. It has all of that, plus a 10-day social media fast and questions to ponder after you fast, and all these things that's compiled in there. And then this holiday season, I teamed up with a graphic artist who wanted to make a mini version of that for their Relief Society.
Oh, fun.
Yes, we created a little mini version of it with just the prayer section, and it's just 21 days, and it's only $4 for the journal, and just gets you started in just maybe having meaningful connections through prayer. And it's a great ministering thing. You can use it. I'm giving discounts to Relief Society presidencies that want to order bulk for their Relief Society and hand it out as a Christmas present. But
so is it a printed copy, or is it digital, or both, or how are you distributing it?
Yep, it's printed. It's a little saddle version of it. So you saddle binding, where it's just kind of super simple, and like 5x8 little journal. So it can be
It sounds like a great gift for your ministering sisters, or
yeah,
even my young women. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So we have that. And then the bigger version is the 90-day journal that dives into a lot more about those revelations and scripture study and aligning your will with God, and actions that you want to take each day to act on those revelations. And there's sections at the beginning of each of these journals that describe how to incorporate these concepts in. So it's not just the journal. There's like the Seeking Revelation journal has like 14 pages of teaching before you even start about how to use the journal and align your will with God.
A lot more in depth. I love that. I love that you have taken this simple little handout that you had to be in this great bound work, because it is so helpful. And I love even just your original Seeking Revelation booklet that you had, because it's just amazing. So, okay, so just to repeat, for people that maybe want to come to see you to order in bulk to get a discount on that, should they just email you? What's the best way to
email me, because I'll do a separate invoice where you can purchase this. I'll send you the link where they can purchase these online. If you're ordering less than 100, just order it online. And then I ship it out. And then if you want more than 100, then they're only $3
Okay.
a journal. And then I'll just send you a separate invoice that you can.
And that's
Yeah.
NikkiOlsenCoaching.com for your
Uh-huh.
email, right? Okay.
Yep, at gmail.com.
At
And then-
gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
My
Okay, it was the
website
wrong-
is- yeah, my website's NikkiOlsenCoaching.com.
Right.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
was NikkiOlsenCoaching.com.
Yes.
I know I've been
Yep,
there
yep,
many times.
Yep. Yeah. So it's NikkiOlsen.
Good. Okay. And we'll throw all these links in the show notes. So you guys listening can link up to these past episodes that we've had with Nikki, which has been so helpful, especially that other ADHD one, since we are talking about ADHD today. When we talked about sleep and we talked about homework, I mean, that really was super helpful with that. And then also your mind and body bridging just for all aspects of life when
Yep.
we're all having the feels of what our poor ADHD friends are feeling all the time. So, I mean, gosh, how many podcasts have we done together? Like tons, because
So
I
many.
know
It's
there's
so
been a
fun.
few more other than that too.
Yes.
So I'll
Yeah.
just have the Nikki list in the show notes and we'll just
Yes.
link up to
Yeah.
all of that and they can binge on Nikki for.
And that would be awesome. And I have my own podcast.
Yes.
called
So for
Meaningful
all the things we
Communication.
haven't covered, you can hear
Yes.
all of that as well.
Yeah, so it's a 10-minute podcast, comes out once a week, and it's just to create inspiration and motivation. I talk about a spiritual concept each week and how to implement that into your life. And it's meant to be motivating, not to make you feel guilty or they're not doing enough. It's really more about, hey, you're already doing what you need to be doing. You're doing great. But it's just a great little pop in, get your spiritual nourishment, and then be able to kind of go on your way. So.
I love that it's 10 minutes or less because it makes it, I can drive to the church and I've listened to the podcast. It's super great. I love that.
Yeah. It's for busy women.
It is. So we are busy. We're running around just trying to do all these things. And I love how you've just broken so many things down for us to help. And is there anything else? I guess we should just say one more time where to find you. So let's list your social handles and your website. So NikkiOlsenCoaching.com
is my website. Yep.
That's the
and
website.
Same on social media. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Nikki Olsen Coaching.
Okay.
And then you can email me at NikkiOlsenCoaching at gmail.com if you're wanting to order bulk. Otherwise, you can order both of those journals on my website if you go.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can link the journals straight to in the show notes too, so they can find them easy.
Oh, for sure. We have lots of links so we can put in there so you can find all the things. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we?
I don't think so. I think that the best way remember that parenting in general is difficult. And then you're parenting with mental health in the mix, whether it's your own or whether it's other people.
Or both.
Or both, exactly. That it's important to reach out for support and help. And that's one of the reasons that I do what I do in the coaching world, is that I don't feel like there's as many resources out there that combine mental health and spirituality together that you can receive. Like I do group coaching for women. We're going to open my group coaching program in January, where you can learn all of those skills that we talked about. I do it individually if you're interested in just working with me individually, and I can teach you those skills. Or I have the journals, you can work on it on your own, but I also have a spiritual survival course where the journal is the workbook for the course. Mm-hmm. And then I dive a lot more into specific skills about how to have consistent daily spiritual habits.
I love that. Nikki, I love you. You're the best.
Thank you.
I just wish you would just come live by me so I could just get my dose of blanding. My job's in Blanding than it is in Dallas, I'm afraid.
So true. So true.
Oh, this is fantastic though. I sure appreciate it and just love you so much and want everyone to go see everything you're doing. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I've got some more information for you on those journals that Nikki was talking about. So for right now, through November 14th, she has, for her Meaningful Prayer Journal, it's on sale, buy 5, get 1 free, and you don't even need a code for that. That will just automatically apply in your cart. And then for her Seeking Personal Revelation journal, that is also on sale this week until the 14th. And she's got a code for us on that one. So to get 20% off the Seeking Personal Revelation journal, then your code there is going to be capital letters FALLSALE, fall sale. So it's fall sale. So you're going to spell that capital FALLSALE. So you punch that in, you get 20% off. So I can't wait for you to go get that. I am going to hurry up and go order some of those Meaning for Prayer journals right away because I can't wait to give those to friends for Christmas. I should have said this at the beginning, but I just wanted to let you know I'm about to send out our Thanksgiving menu, all the recipes that we use at Thanksgiving. So desserts, appetizers, all the different sides, all the yummy different things that we use in our family for Thanksgiving. It's going out in our newsletter this coming week. So if you are not subscribed to our newsletter, it's completely free. And just go over to helpingofhappiness.com and sign up for that so that you can have access to those Thanksgiving recipes. They're so delicious and it makes Thanksgiving so fun and memorable, and I think that you'll love it. So we also have some other really fun Thanksgiving activities that are on there, and Thanksgiving activity chore charts. I mean, just so many fun things for this month of gratitude. I am so grateful for you as a listener. If you would like to, we would love it so much if you'd give us a rating review in the podcast app that you're listening. Have a great, great day.